You think you're investing, but you're just playing in a system rigged to make you believe you're in control. A screen flashes green. Confetti rains down after a trade. A vibration rewards your touch like a slot machine. And for a brief second, your heart whispers, "I'm winning," but you're not. You've just been rewarded. Not for thinking, but for reacting. Behind every tap is a behavioral engineer who knows exactly how long you can resist before your dopamine takes over. You're not inside a brokerage. You're inside a casino that looks like a game and smells like freedom, but ends in silence, fatigue, and loss. They told you this was access. They called it democratization. That investing was finally for everyone. But what they gave you was an interface, bright, fluid, seductive, designed to bypass your logic and pull you into loops. Loops that reward streaks, not strategy. Loops that light up when you act fast and grow quiet when you hesitate. The charts look like video games. The alerts feel like wins. You aren't seeking profit. You're chasing stimulation. And that stimulation is the new economy. Your attention liquefied into predictable reactions. What you thought was empowerment is orchestration. Gamification borrows from slot machines, social media, and app design to make you predictable. You don't learn from the market learns from you. It studies your patterns, your timing, your weakness for red buttons and countdown clocks. And once it knows your rhythm, it doesn't have to persuade you anymore. It just has to trigger the part of you that craves a win. Not to succeed, but to matter. I was there. Swiping, tapping, believing I was smarter, faster, ahead. But I wasn't building wealth. I was leaking meaning. Leaking hours of clarity into seconds of adrenaline. I didn't want independence. I wanted release. From the ache of never feeling like I was enough. They don't want you to win. They want you to keep playing. Because the game was never built to end. Before you learned to invest, you were trained to react. The training began early. As a child, a toy lit up when you touched it. Then came the game console that celebrated your speed. Later, a phone that rewarded your scroll with hearts. And now, a trading app that vibrates when you win. Nothing's changed except the stakes. The behavior is the same. You're still pressing buttons, hoping to feel something that makes you believe you're doing it right. You're not making decisions, you're following a script written in your nervous system decades ago. Gamification didn't start in finance. It started in labs, with rats and rewards, levers and pellets. B.F. Skinner proved that random rewards keep a subject addicted longer than predictable ones. That principle now lives inside every investing platform. Sounds, colors, achievements, flashing numbers, everything tuned to activate compulsion, not comprehension. You're not learning. You're looping. And the loop has one goal, to keep you inside. Long enough to forget what freedom used to feel like. You think you're choosing. But choice without awareness is just obedience. You've been told you're a player, but in truth, you're the product. Your behavior is being harvested. Your impulse is cataloged. The app celebrates your decisiveness, but it was designed to make hesitation feel like failure. And so you don't pause. You don't reflect. You just act. Not because you're bold, but because you've been conditioned to believe that stopping is losing. You've become a character in a system you never asked to be part of. Even when you lose, you feel like you're learning, because the interface tells you so. But what are you actually gaining? Wealth? Or just the illusion of progress wrapped in behavioral loops? The scariest part is that you might never ask that question, because those who start to ask are the ones who stop playing. You wear confidence like armor, but underneath it's a child pressing buttons hoping to be seen. Every gain feels like redemption. Every win whispers that you're finally enough. But who are you trying to prove it to? The market? Your peers? Yourself? The truth is harder. You're not trading assets. You're trading insecurity for illusion. The game feeds your ego the exact fantasy it craves. That control is real, that speed is power, that results mean worth. And every time the graph turns green, it's not just profit you celebrate. It's temporary self-rescue. There's a persona you built for this. Calm, calculated, fluent in acronyms and candlesticks. But it's a mask. Behind it lives someone terrified of irrelevance. Carl Jung called this the shadow, the unacknowledged self that sabotages us when we pretend we've transcended fear. Your trades aren't neutral. They carry the weight of childhood disappointments, of unmet expectations, of moments when you were last, forgotten, dismissed. And now, in the glow of a rising chart, you find meaning. Not strategy, just meaning. Fragile and addictive. The game rewards the performance, not the person. And so you perform, you speak in market language, measure identity through volatility, replace doubt with dashboards. But when the app closes, when the stimulation fades, what remains is a silence too sharp to sit with. Because in that silence, the question finally echoes, without this game, who am I? And the scariest answer is nothing. Not because you are, but because that's what the game needs you to believe. It needs you to need it. And as long as you do, your identity won't be yours. It'll be a skin you wear to survive a game you were never meant to win. They told you this was freedom, that you could trade from anywhere, anytime, that autonomy was now in the palm of your hand. But what they really gave you was a leash disguised as liberation, a loop you mistake for choice. The app says you're in control, but it was designed to keep you moving, not thinking. The brighter the interface, the darker the intention. Because when everything feels like a game, you forget it's your money, your time, your life on the line. This isn't autonomy, it's hyper-responsiveness. You're not deciding, you're being managed. Managed by algorithms trained to detect fatigue, hesitation, FOMO. Managed by feedback loops that drip-feed validation in exchange for your attention. Every win is choreographed. Every reward, a tether. They don't want you empowered. They want you activated. Because activated users don't ask questions. They just play. And playing is profitable. Even when you lose, you're not investing for growth anymore. You're investing to escape discomfort. And that's the most dangerous illusion of all, mistaking stimulation for evolution. You don't pause to think if the strategy aligns with your future. You click because it's there. You trade because not trading feels like missing out. That's not freedom. That's behavioral compliance. And the longer you play, the more the game becomes your identity. Until one day, the idea of not checking the app feels like betrayal. But here's the hardest truth. Real freedom is boring. It doesn't vibrate. It doesn't flash. It doesn't celebrate your every move. It requires slowness, reflection, delay. And these are things the game will never reward you for, because they cannot be monetized. The question is no longer whether the game is fair. It's whether you're willing to stop confusing it with freedom. It doesn't begin with clarity. It begins with collapse. A subtle one. The moment you don't open the app, not because you forgot, but because you finally don't need it. The silence that follows is not peace at first, it's withdrawal. The ache of not chasing, the discomfort of not knowing, the void where urgency used to live. But you sit with it, and as the buzz fades, something ancient returns. Your ability to wait. Not as a tactic, but as a truth. You're not avoiding risk. You're refusing compulsion. This is the real pivot. Not when you switch platforms or strategies, but when you uninstall the belief that fast is better, that more is safer, that constant access equals empowerment. You begin to realize your highest ROI isn't external, it's internal coherence. A strategy not driven by notifications but by rhythm, not by hype, but by depth. You relearn how to decide without adrenaline, how to say no without guilt, how to pause without fear. Because the pause is no longer a threat, it's where your power lives. Florence Scovel Shinn wrote, "Nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists." That includes urgency. That includes identity built on performance. That includes the illusion that you need to be playing to be evolving. Real growth isn't gamified, it's quiet, it's personal. It happens when no one is watching and no one is cheering. Reconstruction is slow, not because you're weak, but because you're no longer trying to prove you're strong. And as you strip away the layers, you don't find strategy. You find self. Not the self they sold you in testimonials and tech stacks, but the one that remembers how to breathe, how to wait, how to choose. That self doesn't need rewards, doesn't need graphs, doesn't need to win. It just needs to be allowed to lead. At last. There's no fanfare when you finally exit the game. No badge, no bell. Just a stillness so unfamiliar it feels like rebellion. You walk through your day with the app uninstalled, and for the first time, your time is your own. No alerts, no triggers, no artificial urgency. And in the absence of stimulation, you rediscover what they took. Your inner authority. The right to make a decision without being manipulated into one. You realize you were never chasing profit. You were chasing permission to slow down, to be enough without momentum, to exist without proving. The game never offered that. It couldn't, because your stillness bankrupts its design. It only works if you're in motion. It only wins if you keep playing. But you're done playing. And in that decision, there's no applause, but there is truth. A quiet, sovereign truth that cannot be bought, sold, or hacked. Every notification, every rising chart, every sound effect is a whisper from a system that studied your dopamine thresholds better than you ever studied the market. The rush you feel is real, but it's not freedom. It's captivity disguised as a game. The map of occult reprogramming is not here to help you win. It's here to help you wake up and walk away. Because no one escapes a game they still believe is real. You are not a player. You are not a user. You are not a persona shaped by metrics and dopamine. You are presence, no longer for sale. And that presence, stripped of noise, holds more wealth than any coin or chart. Now you move when it's right, not when you're told. Now you hold when others panic, not because you're contrarian, but because you're conscious. You don't just exit the game, you reclaim your name. Comment below. The game ends when I decide to stop playing. Share this with someone still living on borrowed urgency. And if you're ready to dismantle the game, subscribe now. You were never supposed to play. You were meant to remember.